The morning sun filtered through the glass windows of Donovan's diner, casting long streaks of light across the black and white checkered floors. The air was thick with the comforting aroma of sizzling bacon, fresh coffee, and warm maple syrup. Conversations buzzed like a soft hum, blending with the occasional clatter of silverware and the ding of the kitchen bell. Jessica Miller weaved effortlessly between tables, balancing trays and jotting down orders with the grace that came from years of waitressing. Her blonde hair was tied back into a neat ponytail, and despite the early hour, her eyes sparkled with energy. She had a way of making customers feel seen, heard, and cared for. Whether it was Mr. Thompson, who grumbled about the weather every morning over his black coffee, or the Thompson twins, who giggled at their pancakes before school, Jessica treated each person like family. But this morning felt different. There was an undercurrent she couldn't shake, like the diner itself was holding its breath. As Jessica delivered a steaming plate of blueberry pancakes to a table by the window, her gaze drifted outside. Sitting on the curb, just beyond the entrance, was a man whose presence seemed to cast a shadow over the bright morning. His clothes were frayed and hung loosely around his gaunt frame. His face was pale, his beard unkempt, and his eyes, though distant, lingered longingly on the plates being served inside. Jessica paused, tray in hand. Her heart tightened in her chest. The man looked like life had worn him down, piece by piece, and now he sat with the weight of the world pressing him into the sidewalk. She lingered for a moment, then forced herself to look away. The diner was busy, and she had work to do, but as she moved between tables, her thoughts kept drifting back to the man outside. Each time she glanced at the window, he was still there, unmoving. Finally, she couldn't ignore it any longer. After ensuring all her tables were taken care of, Jessica approached the counter. "I'll be right back," she said to her co-worker, grabbing a plate. She piled scrambled eggs, crispy bacon, and golden hash browns onto it. A slice of buttered toast followed, and she poured a generous cup of coffee into a sturdy ceramic mug. Balancing the tray, Jessica pushed open the door and stepped outside. The chill of the morning air nipped at her, but she paid it no mind. "Excuse me, sir," she said gently as she neared the man. He flinched at her voice, his eyes narrowing as if bracing for rejection. "Can I help you?" he asked warily, his voice gravelly from disuse. Jessica knelt down, placing the tray on the curb beside him. "I thought you might be hungry. Here, take this." His hands trembled as he eyed the food. "I don't have any money," he whispered, shame curling around his words like a heavy fog. "You don't need any," Jessica replied, offering him a soft smile. "It's on the house." The man hesitated, disbelief flickering across his face, as if kindness was a foreign concept he no longer trusted. "Why would you do that?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Jessica sat beside him on the curb, the cold concrete seeping through her uniform. "Because you deserve kindness. We all do." The man's grip tightened around the mug as he took a tentative sip, the warmth spreading through his hands. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice cracking under the weight of his gratitude. "I'm Sam, by the way, Sam Peterson." Jessica offered her hand. "Jessica Miller." For a few moments they sat in silence, the bustle of the diner fading behind them. "I used to be someone," Sam said quietly. "I served in the army, but when I came home, things fell apart. Couldn't find work, couldn't sleep without nightmares. I pushed everyone away." Jessica listened intently, the weight of his words pressing against her heart. "I'm sorry, Sam. No one should have to go through that alone." Inside the diner, not everyone viewed Jessica's kindness with the same compassion. From his office, Richard Grayson, the diner's owner, watched the scene unfold through the window, his expression tightening with each passing second. To him, this wasn't an act of charity. It was bad for business. The moment Jessica re-entered, he stormed out of his office, his face red with fury. Jessica! His voice boomed, silencing the entire diner. What do you think you're doing? Jessica turned, startled. I was just helping someone who needed it. Helping someone? Grayson scoffed. You gave away food. Do you know how much that plate costs? This is a business, not a shelter. Jessica's cheeks flushed, but she stood her ground. It was one plate, Mr. Grayson. He was hungry. I couldn't ignore him. Grayson's glare hardened. Well, you should have. You embarrassed this diner. You're fired. A hush fell over the room. Jessica's chest tightened, but she lifted her chin. If kindness is something to be ashamed of, then maybe I don't belong here. With deliberate calm, she untied her apron and placed it on the counter. Without another word, she walked out the door. Jessica sat outside on a weathered bench, staring at the empty street. Anger simmered beneath the surface, but doubt whispered louder. Had she done the right thing? She didn't notice the sleek black car pulling up until the door opened. A man in a tailored suit stepped out, his polished shoes clicking softly against the pavement. Jessica Miller? He asked, his voice warm but commanding. Jessica looked up, startled. Yes? The man extended his hand. I'm Mayor James Anderson. I heard about what happened. Jessica blinked in confusion. You did? Mayor Anderson smiled. Your act of kindness didn't go unnoticed, and I wanted to personally thank you. Jessica shook his hand, still trying to process his words. I appreciate that, but I lost my job. The mayor's expression softened. Sometimes, doing the right thing comes with a price, but people like you are exactly what this community needs. He handed her a business card. There's a non-profit that works with veterans and the homeless. They need compassionate people. If you're interested, I can recommend you. Tears welled in Jessica's eyes as she took the card. Thank you. This means more than you know. That night, the mayor shared Jessica's story online. The response was overwhelming. Donations flooded in for local shelters, volunteers lined up, and businesses extended job offers to those in need. As for Sam, he found his footing again, volunteering at the community center and mentoring other veterans. Jessica never imagined one plate of food could spark such change, but sometimes the smallest acts of kindness ripple the farthest.